after being in the news for a comment she made on her podcast. Sophie Cunningham's week that keeps on giving has hit a new high. She started out the week on Good Morning America, and now she is closing out the week starring in an Adidas commercial highlighting the new shoes that are about to be released.
Sophie Cunningham has just transformed a routine sneaker advertisement into the single most discussed event in the WNBA. What was intended to be a lighthearted Adidas commercial designed to showcase new electric pink shoes has abruptly detonated into a full-blown controversy after eagle-eyed fans noticed subtle yet pointed digs seemingly aimed directly at the Indiana Fever.
Sophie Cunningham has taken the ball and ran with it. For that, Sophie Cunningham, kudos to you. Making lemonade out of the lemons that you've been given. Capitalizing on your newfound fame, your newfound stardom. Being a part of the Indiana Fever. Defending Caitlin Clark. You got the Arby's deal. You got the ring deal. And now, starring in a commercial.
The clip achieved overnight virality, instantly igniting widespread debates concerning the intricate themes of loyalty, fame, and money, with Sophie deliberately leveraging this immense spotlight to transmit a covert message to her own team, or perhaps even to the entire league. Irrespective of the ultimate motive, this singular commercial just irrevocably altered the public's perception of Sophie Cunningham forever.
All new X colorways from Adidas and Damian Lillard.
Say night-night to your opponent in night purple. Be in your element with black sulfur, or cause a shock with electric pink.
Where's electric pink?
Sophie Cunningham?
I'm busy.
Wow. Thank you.
Available at Adidas.com. Availability, sizing, color, website address, and prices may vary by region. Please check with local retailer. And remember, always name time responsibly.
It began just like any other promotional launch from Adidas, revealing its latest collection of basketball shoes. However, on this occasion, something felt palpably different. Sophie Cunningham was not just another face in the ad. She was the undeniable centerpiece. Dressed in an electric pink, she commanded each frame with a confidence that screamed, "I've arrived."
This is pretty much a Sophie Cunningham commercial, let's be honest here. This isn't her alongside another WNBA player. This isn't her alongside another NBA player. This is a Sophie Cunningham commercial selling these new Dame shoes.
Spectators were anticipating a brief fleeting appearance, maybe a shared feature with a roster of other WNBA or NBA athletes. Instead, what they received was an unadulterated Sophie Cunningham showcase, and that is precisely when social media absolutely erupted. Within mere hours, snippets of the advertisement deluged TikTok, and viewers on X simply could not disregard the palpable undertone. This was clearly not just a standard advertisement, it was an unequivocal statement. Sophie's distinct smirk, her pointedly dismissive "I'm busy" delivery, and the powerful closing shot emblazoned with the slogan "Be unapologetic" sent the entire fan base into an absolute frenzy. One contingent interpreted it as a message of empowerment, another perceived it as blatant shade aimed squarely at the Indiana Fever.
Adidas sees the money that Sophie Cunningham is, see the star that she is becoming, that she continues to become, and said, yep, we're gonna capitalize on that. She's already been underneath the brand. She's already been affiliated with Adidas. And they said, let's push that button real quick. We see her on let's push that button. We see her TikTok blowing up, her Instagram blowing up. Let's get some of those eyeballs onto our product, and hopefully that can help convert some sales.
The timing could hardly be dismissed as mere coincidence. Only days before the ad's debut, Sophie had ignited significant speculation on her podcast, pointedly alluding to her desire for a more substantial contract and mentioning potential destinations outside of Indiana.
Sophie Cunningham also in the news for comments she made about her new potential contract, maybe mentioned some cities that aren't Indiana. Has fans asking the question, is Sophie Cunningham coming back? Are the Fever front office going to blow this? Are the Fever front office going to offer her a max contract?
For a vast number of observers, the Adidas ad felt like the definitive exclamation point on that entire conversation. Was Sophie Cunningham subtly signaling her professional independence from the Fever? Or was Adidas simply capitalizing on her escalating popularity to manufacture controversy for clicks and sales? Irrespective of the motive, the reaction was absolutely massive.
So many people would love to buy some Sophie Cunningham Adidas merchandise. Please make it happen. Don't want a PE, I want her own shoe. I gotta be honest. The term electric pink for Sophie Cunningham, electric pink, I don't hate that name either. Extra spicy. Hey, I'm not mad at this little rollout that we got for Sophie Cunningham this week. It's not a coincidence. I'm sure this commercial was shot weeks ago or months ago, but it's no coincidence that we have Good Morning America on Monday and we close out with an Adidas commercial.
Major sports media outlets immediately seized upon the story, meticulously analyzing every single second of the commercial. Some lauded Sophie for seizing control of her own narrative, branding it as an act of marketing brilliance. Others leveled accusations of arrogance, asserting that fame had clouded her sense of loyalty to her team. The fan base was deeply divided. Yet, one undeniable truth emerged from the fray. Sophie Cunningham had officially transcended into the realm of mainstream recognition.
That's how this is done. You build and you build and you build. You reach that climax, boom, hit them with the commercial. Salute to Sophie Cunningham. I like the nicknames. Extra spicy, electric pink, absolutely awesome. I'm so happy to see Sophie coining it. I'd like her to get enough money to buy a house so that she can play for the team she wants to play for, not be focused on the earnings.
However, according to insider reports, the front office was far from pleased. They understood that this type of attention had the potential to divert the focus from the collective team and place it squarely upon Sophie's burgeoning personal brand. And if there is a single dynamic the WNBA is not structured to manage with grace, it is when an individual player's spotlight grows to eclipse that of the franchise itself. The events that subsequently unfolded made it unequivocally clear this was not merely a fleeting viral moment. It was the very beginning of a significant power shift within the Indiana Fever organization.
Sophie Cunningham was building a name for herself. As far as her TikTok goes, as far as her Instagram goes, as far as her likeness goes, as far as her appeal goes. She already had the nickname MAGA Barbie, like it or not, over there in Phoenix Mercury. So she already had some clout, so to speak, before coming to Indiana. And then this year has done nothing but just take it to another level.
Adidas astutely perceived something in Sophie Cunningham that the remainder of the WNBA seems sluggish to acknowledge: unadulterated star power. When her name began trending following her fiery on-court moments defending Caitlin Clark and her audacious social media presence, the brand knew it possessed lightning in a bottle. The decision to anoint her as the face of their latest campaign was anything but random. It was meticulously calculated. Sophie embodied precisely the ethos. Adidas sought to capture confidence, chaos, and charisma, all seamlessly rolled into one. In the commercial, Sophie required no teammates or background extras. Her energy single-handedly saturated the screen. Adidas granted her the undisputed spotlight, framing her as a potent disruptor in a league that often struggles to cultivate true marketing icons. They leaned directly into her polarizing image, the one fans either fervently adore or vehemently criticize, and transformed it into her greatest weapon. The line "electric pink" was not merely a color, it evolved into a personality trait, symbolizing Sophie's unpredictable and electrifying edge. The rollout itself was a stroke of genius. The ad was strategically dropped immediately after her appearance on Good Morning America, a moment that was already propelling her into the national headlines. This was not a coincidence, it was a deliberate strategy. Adidas patiently waited until the hype surrounding Sophie reached its absolute zenith, then unleashed the campaign to capture every single ounce of that momentum. Within hours, electric pink was trending, and Sophie's name was being searched more than any other WNBA player that week. This represented the exact kind of brand synergy the league perpetually dreams about, a player transcending a sports story to become a cultural conversation. Adidas didn't just sell shoes, they sold Sophie Cunningham as a lifestyle. They positioned her as the WNBA's rebellious ambassador, someone unafraid to challenge the established system while looking flawless in the process. For Sophie, this was the ultimate validation. She had spent years grinding for recognition, often overshadowed by bigger names. But now she was the headline. Adidas had made her utterly impossible to ignore. And as fans enthusiastically celebrated her come-up, the Indiana Fever front office began to feel the escalating heat, because when a player's market value skyrockets overnight, it doesn't just boost her brand, it fundamentally changes everything about her future with the team. While the Adidas commercial was still generating significant waves, Sophie Cunningham dropped another surprise that had Fever fans holding their collective breath. During a revealing podcast appearance, she spoke with startling candor about her next contract negotiation. The message was unequivocally clear. She wasn't just seeking another deal, she was searching for a home. With a calm smile, Sophie articulated her desire for a bigger contract so I can finally buy a house and feel cozy. The line initially sounded innocuous, but what followed transformed it into a bombshell moment. She casually mentioned cities like New York and Minneapolis as places she could envision herself living. That single sentence sent social media into an immediate state of chaos. Fans instantly began speculating whether she was cryptically teasing a move to the New York Liberty or the Minnesota Lynx. Indiana Fever supporters flooded comment sections, imploring her not to leave. Others accused her of masterfully playing the media game, using contract talks to exert pressure on the front office to pay up. Sophie, for her part, did not backtrack. She doubled down on her perceived worth, stating that she wanted a contract that reflected not just her on-court play, but her pervasive influence. And she is not wrong. Few players have leveraged fame, fashion, and fan engagement in the manner that Sophie has this season. Between her Arby's partnership, her viral TikToks, and now the Adidas spotlight, she has become a veritable marketing magnet. But the real tension lies just beneath the surface. The Fever already have substantial financial commitments on the horizon, especially with Caitlin Clark's inevitable max extension looming. So the critical question remains, can Indiana afford to pay Sophie what she's truly worth without compromising their long-term salary cap flexibility? Whether intentional or not, her comments placed immense public pressure on the franchise. Fans, sponsors, and even the media began to frame her as one of the league's most coveted rising free agents. Sophie's bigger contract comment wasn't merely about money, it was about status, leverage, and independence. And if the Fever don't handle this situation with the requisite finesse, they could find themselves watching Sophie Cunningham take her electric pink glow somewhere else entirely. The Indiana Fever suddenly found themselves in the unenviable hot seat. Just as the franchise was regaining national prominence, thanks to Caitlin Clark's immense popularity and the team's palpable chemistry, Sophie Cunningham's Adidas commercial and contract remarks reignited a firestorm of speculation. Inside the organization, executives reportedly felt completely blindsided. They were aware that Sophie had become a fan favorite, but they did not anticipate her seizing control of the narrative so publicly and so effectively. For a team diligently trying to rebuild its public image, this situation created an uncomfortable spotlight that no one in the front office could afford to ignore. Behind closed doors, Fever management is confronting a genuine dilemma. Sophie's breakout year has undeniably boosted the team's visibility, yet her burgeoning market value is rising at a rate faster than their payroll can realistically accommodate. The WNBA salary cap remains notoriously tight, and soon the Fever will be obligated to pay both Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston top-tier salaries. Offering Sophie a large deal now could severely complicate their long-term roster flexibility, but underpaying her risks losing one of the league's most charismatic and marketable players, potentially alienating a rapidly growing fan base drawn to her bold personality. Financial experts from around the league argue that Sophie's brand value alone justifies a strong competitive offer. She brings attention, sponsors, and a level of audience engagement that the Fever have struggled to generate for years. However, traditionalists within the organization may hesitate, questioning whether her on-court production truly matches her off-court fame. This internal tug-of-war could very well define the Fever's next chapter. Meanwhile, the fans have made their stance unequivocally clear. Social media is replete with hashtags like #PaySophie and #KeepCunningham, with supporters demanding the team show respect for her undeniable impact. The Fever's conspicuous silence only serves to fuel the drama. Every day they wait to address the situation, the tension grows, and the risk of losing her multiplies. Sophie's camp isn't remaining quiet either. Sources Sources close to her suggest she is fully aware of the leverage she now holds, and she is prepared to use it. The Adidas spotlight bestowed upon her more than just fame, it gave her negotiating power. And if Indiana hesitates much longer, Sophie might just remind them how replaceable loyalty can be in a business that is increasingly built on branding. Sophie Cunningham has masterfully achieved something few WNBA players ever have, turning controversy into currency. Long before the Adidas deal, she was already meticulously crafting a brand that existed far beyond the confines of the basketball court. Her presence on TikTok and Instagram exploded following her fiery on-court clashes and unapologetically candid interviews. But what truly sets her apart is how she has leaned directly into that spotlight instead of shying away from it. Every viral clip, every bold statement, every sideline smirk has become an integral part of the Sophie Cunningham brand. Confident, chaotic, and utterly captivating. Her nickname, MAGA Barbie, once a derisive jab from critics during her tenure with the Phoenix Mercury, somehow evolved into a powerful marketing tool. She embraced it, flipped the script, and transformed it into a component of her unique identity. That is precisely what makes Sophie such a formidable force in the modern sports world. She possesses a keen self-awareness, she understands the economics of attention, and she knows precisely how to monetize the noise. Add her Arby's deal, her ring sponsorship, and now Adidas's Electric Pink campaign, and you are looking at one of the fastest growing personal brands in the entire league. For Sophie, every opportunity is strategic. The podcast appearances, the social media engagement, the brand collaborations, they all serve a larger overarching goal: independence. She doesn't just want to be another WNBA player patiently waiting for recognition. She is actively building an empire where she calls the shots. It is the same kind of playbook followed by stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, but Sophie's version feels rawer, more unpredictable, and intensely more personal. What makes this ascent even more fascinating is the timing. The WNBA is desperate for stars who can genuinely move the needle, and Sophie is proving that controversy sells just as much as championships do. She may not be the league's top scorer, but she is, without question, its top headline generator. Still, that success comes with a significant cost. The more she wins off the court, the more the whispers grow inside the locker room and the front office. Some admire her hustle, others perceive it as a distraction. But love her or hate her, Sophie Cunningham is doing what few dare to do. She is redefining what power looks like in women's basketball. Inside the Indiana Fever locker room, things are not quite as serene as they may appear on camera. Sophie Cunningham's meteoric rise to superstardom has subtly shifted the atmosphere from one of pure unity to one of quiet competition. Teammates who once laughed off her playful, high-octane energy are now observing her endorsement deals and media attention with a mixture of feelings. Some genuinely admire her grind and view her success as a source of motivation. Others whisper that the spotlight has become excessively focused on Sophie and not enough on the collective team effort. Her Adidas commercial was the definitive tipping point. While fans online enthusiastically cheered her electric pink confidence, insiders suggest that a few players felt blindsided. They perceived the ad as another conspicuous example of Sophie's growing independence from the team's official branding, especially since no other Fever players were featured in it. In a league fundamentally built on the concept of teamwork, individual success can sometimes be misconstrued as rebellion. And with every viral clip, every trending hashtag, Sophie's influence inside the locker room only grows stronger. Caitlin Clark's presence adds yet another layer of complexity to this dynamic. Both players attract enormous audiences, but for entirely different reasons. Clark represents the quintessential All-American underdog, clean-cut, disciplined, and intensely focused on the game. Sophie, by contrast, is the rebel, the fiery, outspoken showstopper who thrives on chaos. Together they draw massive attention, but it is a delicate balancing act that is incredibly difficult to maintain. Some insiders suggest that management worries about competing egos. Others believe their contrasting personalities could be the very spark that defines this new era of the Fever. Behind the scenes, the coaches are treading carefully. They know Sophie's popularity is priceless for the franchise, yet they cannot afford to compromise team chemistry. Players have reportedly been instructed to focus on basketball and to stay off the social media drama, but that is far easier said than done in the modern WNBA, where every single move goes viral within a matter of minutes. The truth is, the Fever are standing at a crossroads crossroads, one where fame, loyalty, and ambition are all colliding, and the very next decision Sophie makes could determine whether this team remains united or begins to crack from the inside out. Caitlin Clark's name hovers over every single thing the Indiana Fever organization does, and Sophie Cunningham is acutely aware of it. The two have become the undisputed faces of a new WNBA era, one built on flash, fandom, and fierce individuality. While Caitlin's rise was primarily fueled by record-breaking collegiate performances and a pristine, clean-cut image, Sophie's fame emanates from her unapologetic personality and her willingness to embrace the role of the villain. Together, they form a marketing goldmine, but also a potential flashpoint for the team's future. From a pure branding standpoint, keeping Sophie and Caitlin together makes perfect sense. They effectively balance each other out. Caitlin draws in the basketball purists, while Sophie brings in the entertainment-focused crowd. Adidas, Nike, and even ESPN have taken notice of how both names completely dominate fan conversations. It is no coincidence that Sophie's electric pink rollout occurred in the very same week that headlines about Caitlin's Nike shoe deal resurfaced. Whether this was planned or purely accidental, their combined star power is driving more engagement than the entire league managed to generate last season. But from a team perspective, this dynamic can be exceedingly tricky. Both women command attention in their own unique ways, and the Fever must expertly navigate that shared spotlight without allowing egos to collide. Some insiders believe that Sophie's recent moves, her Adidas commercial, her contract comments, her viral TikToks, are her strategic way of ensuring she is not overshadowed by Caitlin. In a media landscape utterly obsessed with Clark, Sophie has skillfully found her own lane and sped right into it. Fans, however, are split on the matter. Some absolutely love the duo, dubbing them the fire and ice of the Fever. Others harbor fears that one star's success could invariably come at the expense of the other. For now, the chemistry between them appears to be strong, but the whispers of competition persist. If Indiana plays this right, they could create the single most marketable pairing in the history of the WNBA. But if they mishandle it, if jealousy, contracts, or egos get in the way, it could unravel everything they have painstakingly built. And in a league that is perpetually hungry for stars, losing either one of them could be catastrophic. Sophie Cunningham's rise isn't just a personal victory, it's a wake-up call for the entire WNBA. For years, players were instructed to let their game speak for itself, to remain humble, and to allow the league to handle the marketing. Sophie has completely flipped that rulebook upside down. She did not wait for permission. She built her own spotlight. The Adidas commercial was more than just a branding moment. It was definitive proof that players now hold the power to control their own narratives, and that fundamental shift is making team executives increasingly nervous. For decades, the WNBA has struggled to find a delicate balance between star individuality and league unity. Now Sophie stands at the very center of that tension. Her success demonstrates that charisma, controversy, and confidence can drive fan engagement just as effectively as statistics and championships. Brands are no longer solely seeking quiet professionalism. They are looking for personalities that trend. Sophie delivered exactly that, and in doing so, she is compelling the Fever, and even the league itself, to evolve. The timing could not be more critical. With Caitlin Clark's popularity bringing millions of new eyes to women's basketball, players like Sophie are proving that visibility does not have to be confined to a single archetype. You can be bold, unpredictable, and outspoken and still win. Her Adidas deal and growing list of endorsements prove that companies now value authenticity over conformity. But with great visibility comes even greater risk. Every statement, every contract discussion, every social media post is amplified tenfold. Sophie's next decision, whether to re-sign with the Fever or to test the waters of free agency, will send ripples across the entire WNBA. If she stays, she becomes a cornerstone of a rising franchise. If she leaves, she sets a powerful precedent for players demanding both respect and control. Either way, one thing is certain: Sophie Cunningham isn't just playing basketball anymore. She's redefining what it means to be a star in women's women's sports, and the game will never be the same after this. Sophie Cunningham's journey from a role player to a headline maker has fundamentally rewritten the rules of WNBA fame. What began as a simple Adidas commercial transformed into a profound statement about independence, ambition, and control. She is no longer waiting for recognition, she is commanding it. The Indiana Fever now face a defining choice: embrace Sophie's star power or risk losing it to another franchise that is ready to bet big on her future. Either way, Sophie has unequivocally proven that she doesn't just play the game, she moves it, and from this moment forward, every spotlight in the league will have her name written in pink.